When I first met Emily, I thought I had stumbled into a dream. She wasn't just beautiful, she was magnetic. The kind of woman who walked into a room and somehow made it feel smaller, warmer, and entirely about her. We met at a charity auction downtown. She was there with her sister, Claire, who was quieter but carried the same striking features: blonde hair, sharp cheekbones, and an elegance you couldn't fake. At the time, I was 2 years into building my logistics company from scratch. I wasn't a millionaire, but I was well on my way. Contracts were coming in, the team was growing, and for the first time in years, I could breathe without thinking about rent. Emily was curious about my work, asking sharp questions most people wouldn't even think to ask. I liked that. She wasn't just pretty, she was smart. We started dating, and within a year, she was by my side at corporate dinners, supplier negotiations, and networking events. She wasn't officially part of the business, but she was always there, observing, listening, learning. By the time we got married, she knew the company inside out. That didn't bother me. In fact, I thought it was a good thing. Then came Claire. She'd gone through a messy breakup and needed a fresh start. Emily suggested bringing her into the company as our new head of marketing. I hesitated. Mixing family with business is risky, but Emily insisted. She's talented. She just needs the right environment, she said. I gave in. After all, Emily had been nothing but supportive since day one. At first, Claire was great. She brought in a new energy, revamped our brand, and secured a couple of high-profile clients through her contacts. But slowly, I began to notice the shift. Office whispers would stop when I walked by. Meetings I was supposed to lead suddenly had scheduling conflicts that excluded me. Emily and Claire would have closed-door discussions in my office without me there. I brushed it off as paranoia. I was working fewer hours at the time, focusing more on strategy than day-to-day operations. The team was strong, and I trusted them. Besides, Emily had been telling me for months, "You need to relax more, Michael. You've been burning the candle at both ends for years." One Thursday afternoon, I walked into the conference room expecting our quarterly planning meeting. Instead, I found Emily and Claire sitting at the head of the table, flanked by our CFO and HR manager. My usual seat had been taken. Emily's smile was polite but cold, the kind that tells you you're about to hear something you won't like. "Michael," she began, folding her hands neatly on the table, "we've been reviewing your recent contributions to the company, and we've decided it's time for a change in leadership." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. Change in leadership? I was the founder. The man who'd poured blood, sweat, and every cent I had into making this company real. I tried to laugh it off. "All right, funny joke. Now can we get on with the meeting?" But no one laughed. Claire leaned forward, her voice steady. "Michael, you've been disengaged for months. You come in late, leave early. You've been delegating everything, and the truth is, you've become lazy." That word hit me harder than I expected. Lazy. As if the 80-hour weeks, the sleepless nights, the years I spent eating instant noodles while building this empire from scratch meant nothing. Emily's eyes softened, or at least pretended to. "It's not personal, Michael. But the company can't afford a leader who's not pulling his weight. Claire and I have been stepping up to keep things running. The board agrees it's best if we take over operations, effective immediately." I looked around the table, searching for someone, anyone, to speak up for me. The CFO kept his gaze fixed on a spreadsheet. HR shuffled papers. My stomach dropped. "You can't just take my company," I said, my voice low but shaking with anger. Emily slid a folder across the table. "Actually, we can. You signed the equity restructuring documents last year when we brought Claire on board. You remember? You were focused on expanding into the West Coast market, so you let me handle the legal side." I remembered the day. I'd been exhausted from a string of cross-country flights. Emily had shown me a thick stack of papers, saying it was just a minor restructuring for tax purposes. I hadn't read every word. I trusted her. Stupidly. Now that trust had gutted me. Claire chimed in, her tone smug. "We're not pushing you out completely. You'll keep a small share in a consulting role, if you want it." A consulting role. In my own company. Like a stranger brought in for advice and then dismissed. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. You think you've won because you've manipulated some paperwork and whispered behind my back. But this isn't over. Emily didn't flinch. Michael, we're trying to do this amicably. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. I walked out without another word, my hands trembling. In the elevator, my reflection stared back, a man who'd built everything from nothing, now stripped of it by the two people he'd trusted most. But beneath the shock and betrayal, something else was stirring. A dangerous kind of clarity. If they thought I was going to fade quietly into the background, they were about to learn just how lazy I could be when it came to revenge. The first few days after they ousted me were the hardest. I stayed in bed until noon, staring at the ceiling, replaying that meeting over and over. Every smirk, every cold glance, every word. Especially that one word. Lazy. But grief quickly gave way to obsession. I didn't just want my company back. I wanted them to regret ever crossing me. The first step was gathering information. I called up old contacts, suppliers, and a few loyal employees who still respected me. Over drinks and hushed voices, they told me what was really going on. Claire and Emily had been bleeding the company dry with expensive consultants, who were conveniently their friends, throwing lavish parties under the guise of networking, and pushing through risky deals without proper research. I smelled blood. Step 2 was quiet infiltration. They'd stripped me of my title, but I still owned 12% of the company, and that gave me the right to access financial statements. I pored over them like a man possessed. The numbers confirmed what I'd heard. Profits were plummeting, cash reserves shrinking, and debt piling up. They'd inherited a gold mine, and were turning it into a sinkhole. Step 3 was leverage. I dug up every careless email, every questionable invoice, every personal expense they'd disguised as company growth. I didn't need to fabricate anything. Their arrogance had done the work for me. When I had enough, I called a meeting with two of our biggest investors. Over coffee, I laid everything out: charts, projections, proof of mismanagement. I didn't beg for help. I simply presented the facts and let them reach the inevitable conclusion. The company was on the verge of collapse under its current leadership. The next week, Emily called me. Her voice was tight, no warmth this time. We need to talk. I met them in the same boardroom where they'd humiliated me. This time, I came prepared. The investors were already there, sitting stiff and silent. I dropped a thick folder on the table. This, I said, is a full record of your mismanagement. Every bad deal, every personal expense, every party you billed to the company. I've shared it with the investors and, if necessary, I'll share it with the authorities. Claire's face drained of color. Emily opened her mouth, but no words came out. The lead investor cleared his throat. We've decided on a change in leadership, again. Effective immediately, Michael will be reinstated as CEO. You two will step down. Quietly. If you fight this, the public will know everything. The meeting ended in silence, except for the sound of their heels clicking against the floor as they left. As I sat back in my chair, I didn't feel joy. Just a cold, quiet satisfaction. They called me lazy, but they forgot one thing. Even a lazy man will move mountains when you take away what's his.